Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. So we're coming up to the 1.5 year anniversary since my grandmother passed away. My grandmother on my father's side. At the funeral, something extraordinary happened. What had happened was the year leading up to her death, I had not been very lucky in love. You guys remember that. And at the funeral, I was already overloaded with all the dramas in my love life. And the death just added to that. I was dealing with a lot of drama that year, actually. I had a workplace that had really poor facilities, nowhere to eat. And then my landlord was a slumlord. The place had flooded, and she wasn't taking care of that. And then my grandmother passed away. That was the structure of that year. The love life disasters, the workplace disasters, the house flooding, and then my grandmother passed away. So by the time I got to the funeral, my nervous system was already running on fumes. I walked up to my grandmother's casket and I asked my grandmother, when she makes it to the other side, to communicate with Marie Curie, to have Marie Curie set me up on a blind date with one of her descendants. And my inspiration for that was when I read my grandmother's biography. My grandmother was born just a few months before Marie Curie passed away. So I thought they would be reunited up in heaven again. That was my inspiration for that. My dad was so upset at the remark, though. He thought it was insensitive. There were other people there and at the funeral home. He told me that not everybody who dies is elderly. You know, you have people there who probably have had health conditions, died of accidents. You don't want to be telling jokes like that at the funeral. But my uncle was more understanding. My uncle has a background in psychology, and he told my dad, "Don't worry about it. Some people even laugh at funerals." I didn't even realize people laugh at funerals until I heard my uncle say that. But the truth is, I was distraught over all the other stuff in my life at the moment. The death was just the last straw of that whole season in my life, if you will. But after the remark at the funeral, I started having some bizarre coincidences. Uh, First, before I even left Taiwan, I met a girl there, probably not closely related to Marie Curie, but it was a start. I had gotten home from the funeral and reactivated an old dating profile that I hadn't used in many years. I met a girl in Houston, and then I realized she was born on almost exactly the 100-year anniversary of Marie Curie discovering radio. And also, she was 1/4 Polish. She had one grandparent who was Polish. I took the trip to Houston. Actually, part of the reason I took the trip to Houston is kind of interesting. That week, after we had connected on the app, two planes had crashed. First, you had the plane that hit a helicopter in DC, and then there was another crash. I can't remember the second one. And I remembered when I was a kid, well, we had 4 planes crash within 2 hours. They were intentional, obviously, and how long I feared flying after that. I didn't want to start another fear of flying streak after what had happened with the 2 plane crashes last year. And so that kind of tilted my decision to go to Houston, to quickly get over it before the fear developed. And so I went to Houston. Well, what was interesting was that as the plane was approaching Houston, it was descending, and that's when the fear kicked in, because that's when the incident in DC had happened. I had already started a conversation with the guy who was sitting in front of me, and so to help relieve the tension, I asked him, "What do you think about people who kick seats?" Because when I was 5 years old, I used to love to kick seats. That's what I told him. He said, "It doesn't bother him too much." I said, "Well, would you mind if I kick your seat right now?" I was just trying to relieve the tension of the anxiety of the approach into Houston airport. So I asked the guy, "Would you mind if I kick your seat?" He says, "Sure, why not?" And I lifted my knee, and my knee hit the seat before I even got a chance to kick. But I gave it as big a whack as I could. And the flight attendant thought something crazy had happened and walked over and said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, no, no, no. We were just kicking each other's seats just for fun." And so I told the flight attendant, after what happened at DC, I'm just kind of relieving tension. The approach is kind of scary for me, and she laughed at me for that. Anyway, the girl in Houston, nothing turned of it. We still chat from time to time. She had just broken up with somebody, and we had a discussion after that. Not long after the trip to Houston, I met, this time at a book club, a half Polish girl who likes to write literature. She's working on her own novel, just like Eve Curry. And then, when she celebrated her birthday, I realized that she was born almost exactly 100 years after Marie Curie had discovered polonium. And it just gave me a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling that Marie Curie was watching over me. I'm an adjunct professor for Maricopa colleges, and this past semester, one of my classes got canceled, and I scrambled looking for work, and I found some work at a tutoring center, and I ran into some drama that could have unfolded badly, but it didn't, and it just and there were some interesting coincidences there too. I had one of my students had brought in a large bag of Cheetos, gotten it over her hands, and I have allergies. That's a big problem for me. I ducked into the bathroom to strategize on what to do about that. And when I came out and I talked to the student, she went to wash her hands, and it was all good, and she never brought in another bag of Cheetos again or anything like that again. So that was good. That's not how situations like that have always unfolded for me. It's always terrifying when I see food allergy situations like that, because some people are very hostile about it. Even when they're not hostile, there's no guarantee you're going to get a good solution to that, right? They might just insist that they need their food to focus on their work. You never know. You never know. Every time I see that, it's like being forced to play a game of career Russian roulette, right? You never know if that's a career ender right there, right? That's why I'm always in motion, right? I never let a job get too comfortable, right? But she washed her hands and never brought back another bag of Cheetos. Not long after that, she was excited about her birthday coming up, big celebration. When I looked at her birthday, December 6th, and she was turning 11, so 2014, exactly 110 years after Eve Curry. And it's just like Marie Curie was watching over me. And then not long after that, actually, was it before or after, I discovered that my boss was exactly 100 years younger than Marie Curie. And it's just nice, warm, fuzzy feeling that Marie Curie is watching over me. Oh, there's another girl I forgot. During the time I was with the literature girl, the one that was like kind of like a clone of Eve Curry, she had a lot of anxiety. We would agree to meet somewhere, she would show up hours late, and it made me wonder if Eve Curry herself had anxiety like that, because I saw a lot of similarities between the two of them. So I did some research. I never found my answer to whether or not Eve Curry had anxiety like that, but I did get to know her niece, Helene. She's still alive, 98 years old. I just got another response from her yesterday, actually, and I'm hoping to visit her at some point. She lives in France now, and God, if I marry her, I'm going to propose to her using a ring made of a very special material that is now used to make her grandmother's discovery. A low melting point. I could literally melt and pour that ring myself. I'm going to use that to propose to her as a symbolic gesture about her grandmother. I can't wait. I really hope to. You need to be married for 4 years to gain a French citizenship. So if I do marry her, I need to keep her real nice and healthy. And so definitely keep her away from the experimentation that her grandmother was involved in. Right? I can't wait. Oh, there was another girl. This one didn't turn out well, but it could have turned a lot worse. Let's put it that way. At the tutoring center, one of my colleagues was born 3 days after we lost Eve Curry. And I had hoped to connect with her mom. Her mom works in quite a few areas that I like to network with. I think the colleague had weird feelings for me, though, and as a result, it went sideways. She left the tutoring center. I still am connected to her mom, but I'm not sure how to go about it. I want to wrap up my work at the tutoring center before I make the approach, though, just to have it clean. But I think it will go clean. It's one of those things that was a little bit more twisty than I had thought. But you know what? It could have gone a lot worse. So it still feels like Eve Curry watching over me. And so a year and a half, just a weird series of blessings from Marie Curie. All right, please pray for continued blessings, and I really do hope that things go well with Helene Curry. Pray for that one especially. That will really elevate everything that I'm doing, and also the mother of that Eve Curry reincarnation. Let's hope that I have a good reunion with that. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.